Meet Dave. He's responsible for new product hardware design for his company. He's expected to deliver products on time, on budget, and to spec. That's been getting harder and harder to do. Sometimes Dave feels like he needs to run just to keep in place. Since his company makes advanced products, their customers sometimes have a hard time determining exactly what they want because it doesn't exist yet. They can't just point to it and say, "Give me one of those." Occasionally, Dave feels like sales promises the customers the world in the hopes that something will prompt the customer to sign the purchase contract. In the meantime, finance is insisting that Dave get product design and manufacturing costs down. The only thing that everyone agrees on is that they need Dave to move even faster. His coworker Tina leads the firmware and software development for the product. She says that her group has been using Scrum to accelerate their development, and that Scrum traces its origin back to the hardware world. She also says that Scrum, or a combination of Scrum and something else, is used by 70% of companies that say they're using an agile approach to development. She explains that it's a lightweight approach that prioritizes all the features that the customer wants into a product backlog. At the beginning of each couple of weeks sprint, a certain amount of work is then taken from the product backlog and moved to a sprint backlog. Within that sprint, the team completely develops and tests the chosen features using daily scrums to coordinate between team members. The result is that they have a potentially shippable increment of the product every couple of weeks. She explains that her team has seen a number of benefits which match up with what the general industry has seen. It's easier to handle changing priorities. It's easier to see where a project stands. There's better alignment between engineering and the business. There's improved delivery speed and time to market. Team productivity is up, and team morale is even improved. But that can't work for hardware, can it? After all, Dave's situation is different. You can't release a piece of a circuit board as a product. You have to lay out the whole circuit board. Then you have to go through development testing, and environmental testing, and regulatory testing, and all this time the costs are piling up. And then you have your purchasing department tell you that there's a shipping delay on a key part. Or even worse, a part on an existing design is going end of life. Not to mention the last minute request from sales to add just one more small feature. No wonder Dave's job is getting more stressful every day. But what if I told you that it is possible to use Scrum in hardware and that it's been done very successfully multiple times? It's designed to work in this type of environment, not to just compensate for it. Do you want a few examples? In 2007, Progressive Insurance and the X Prize Foundation announced a competition to create a street-legal 4-passenger vehicle that could get at least 100 miles per gallon, travel at a speed of at least 65 miles per hour going uphill, and be mass production capable. Teams from numerous companies and universities entered the competition. Some spent years and over $1 million on their submissions. Joe Justice, who was trained in Scrum, decided to enter the competition. Working with the globally distributed team of volunteers, which went by the name Wikispeed, they used Scrum and managed to develop a car that met the requirement in a matter of months and with a development budget of a couple $100,000. They came in 10th place overall, beating out over 100 other teams, including teams from MIT and Tesla. They continue to improve the car on a weekly basis, and the current design not only achieves over 100 miles per gallon for both highway and city, it also can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, has a top speed of 149 miles per hour, and has the lightest frame ever to achieve a 5-star crash rating. The total cost to buy all of the parts to build a car in single unit quantities is around $32,000. How about an example from the highly regulated field of military aviation? The Saab Group uses the same approach to design the Saab Gripen. Jane's Information Group, the publishers of the frequently cited Jane's Defense Weekly, has judged the Saab Gripen to have the lowest operating costs by far of any modern Western fighter jet, 1/3 less than its nearest competitor. And it's not just an ancient fighter jet. Saab has gotten so good at improving the jet that they're able to release a new improved version with the latest avionics, weapon systems, and flight control systems every 6 months. Saab repeated that performance again recently. A few years ago, the U.S. Air Force decided that their 50-year-old training aircraft just weren't sufficient for use in training pilots to fly the newest advanced aircraft. They put out a request for proposals for a 5th-generation training aircraft and flight simulators to go with them. 7 companies or groups of companies competed for the contract. A few of them dropped out of the competition because of the complexity of the program or the budget constraints on the program. 2 groups proposed modifications of existing 4th-generation aircraft. 2 groups proposed new designs. One of those groups with a new design was a team made up of Boeing and Saab. Not only did the Boeing Saab team propose a new design, they actually developed and built the first production unit at their own expense. They did all that in 3 years instead of the industry standard 6 years. And to prove that it wasn't just a prototype, they built a second production jet to go with it. Ultimately, the Boeing Saab team won the contract with a $9.2 billion bid, surprising everyone with the price that was over 40% below the $16.3 billion that the Air Force had budgeted. Even though the competition started with existing aircraft, they still couldn't compete with the agility and efficiency of the Boeing Saab team. Combat Aircraft said Boeing was keen to exploit Saab's lean manufacturing know-how to develop the aircraft in an affordable and agile manner. It's obvious that they succeeded. And the approach doesn't just work for military aviation and cars. So how do you learn how to do this in your own company? You can go to the Scrum Inc. website and look for the list of Scrum and hardware certified trainers. Scrum Inc. is the company founded by Jeff Sutherland, the co-creator of Scrum. There are about 30 certified trainers worldwide, including me, Alan Jones. Feel free to contact me for a free initial consultation and let your hardware design efforts take off.